I'm very curious. You know, when I received an email from the Namibian High Commission here in Accra concerning this all-important event, I was asking so many questions. And I do know that the business community would also want to know more about this event. I will start with Charity. So Charity can tell me more about why you are here, then we can take it from there.
Okay. I would have wished that maybe she started because she's the driver of actually organizing the Namibian whole delegation getting in here. Now, the World Trade Center General Assembly happens annually around the world, but this is the first time that is actually being hosted in sub-Saharan Africa. And so, of course, Ghana being the host of the CFTA, which is the African Continental Free Trade Secretariat, I think they needed to push to ensure that quite a number of African countries are also represented in this gathering that brings together the private sector from various sectors of different economies within the continent to really drive the agenda of Africa, and also to be able to promote their own projects from their respective economies, so that the dream of an integrated Africa is actually realized. So it was really more of an interactive session where we had great representation from various countries. But Namibia actually topping the list because we took the show. I believe you saw that. We took the show. Our investment board really prepared thoroughly, ensuring that we had a very significant actually booth there that was showcasing quite a number of Namibian products that we could produce, but also to engage on what investment opportunities Namibia has to offer, not only within the region but also around the continent. I think my sister Ms. Uaandja will actually highlight more on that. But basically it was really a gathering that brought together all private sectors. There were specific sectors of focus for this event, I want to believe, and these were mainly from the tourism sector, the energy sector, the mining sector. I left anyone out, basically. So, but it was still open also from
agriculture
countries as well. So, in the case of Namibia, what we did, in as much as those sectors were the focus areas, we really left it open because we thought, particularly our SME sector, most of the African economies are really run by the SME sector. So for us, it was important to just open it out for them so that they can also have an opportunity to see what they can be able, what opportunities are there for them, and how this integration really, what it really means to them in a nutshell.
Right. For me, I am very much interested in the opportunities, what Namibia has to offer Africa. We'll look at Africa first because it's all about economic diplomacy, integrating Africa and building a bigger market for the entire African continent to do business with each other. So this is a fine opportunity. Let me come to Nangula. Is this your first time in Ghana?
It's not my first time. I have been to Ghana before, so I'm actually in the public sector for just over 2 years. And in my previous career, I have visited Ghana because I work for a company that also operates across Africa. But yeah, it was a brief visit, and it is good to be back here again.
It's good to have you back again.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the public sector. We are looking at the private and the public sector working together. Of course, like she rightly stated, I think all over the world, there is no way you can talk about building a very vibrant or robust economy without actually putting in place the right measures for SMEs to thrive. So this is certainly a step in the right direction. Let's talk about from the public sector. What are we looking at?
So I think what we look at the public sector is really an enabler of the environment, making sure that we create an environment for the private sector to thrive. So where we started from, example, for Namibia, we said that yes, Namibia economy, for example, if we start there, has been growing over a number of years. But that growth came to a standstill around about 2015. And when we reviewed, we found out that Namibia, the public sector is predominant, and therefore it sometimes crowds out the private sector. And therefore we were growing our country on the back of commodities, which is of course diamond and various natural resources, just like many other African countries. We were growing it on the back of government spending, which was high, and then we were growing it on the back of non-tradables. Non-tradables is of course construction, products and services that are consumed where they are produced. So when we had done a review, we found out that if we are to grow our economy, then we need to increase the private sector involvement in the economy. And therefore, government has to step up its role as an enabler and allow in the private sector to take the space, so that when you look at the economic equation of government, of economic growth being the sum of consumer spending, government spending, investment, plus the net of import and export, we believe that one lever that we have to pull as Namibia is the private sector. But for that to happen, government need to put the structures in place. Because if you want infrastructure, yes, you will need a lot of government support for infrastructure. If you want an enabling environment and to attract investment, you need to have a good policy, you need to have good legislation and so on. So even if we start just with the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, it starts as a dream by our politicians. They first come together and then they say, number one, we want to, what type of Africa do we want? And then they talk about Agenda 2063. And from a practical view, they say, this is the Africa we want. And if this is the Africa we want, then which instruments do we need to put that Africa in place? They come up with the instrument and say, one of the instruments that we need is inter-Africa trade. Currently, we are not trading sufficiently among ourselves as African countries. When we look at the Asians, when we look at the Americas, when we look at the Europeans, they are trading among themselves between 50 to 70%. But among Africans, our trade among ourselves is probably somewhere in the region of below 10. And therefore, if we want to grow Africa, if we want to increase employment of Africa, we need to trade among ourselves. And therefore, that instrument. But that trade is facilitated by government, but it's implemented by the private sector. And that's why then we as the public sector, we need to open doors for our private sector to take those opportunities. And if every one of us play our roles and we play that on the back of trust, then we'll be able to create the environment that is necessary for us to thrive and to create jobs for our children and our children's children.
I love the idea of creating jobs. You talked about Africa not trading with itself enough.
Yes.
Can we just talk about some of the challenges that were identified in your meeting? Some of the things that came up in your meeting when you talk about Africa not trading enough with itself.
Yeah, so I think, of course, this is something that has been discussed many times in Africa, and it is the roots that we have currently. Most of our roots goes to the former colonies that we have got relationship with. If you are Francophone Africa, your roots is to France. If you are Anglophone, your roots is either to Americas and so forth. And what we need to do is, how do we find the roots amidst ourselves as Africans? How do we make sure that we have got connectivity? And connectivity in terms of whether it is road connectivity, whether it is rail connectivity, whether it is sea connectivity, or whether it is air connectivity. We need to start there. And then, of course, it's about access. In terms of access, the movement of not only goods, but the movement of people. To which extent do our visas grant access to other fellow Africans to come and visit our respective countries so that they can buy what they need to trade in other countries? So if you look for the economies like Namibia, we are a country of about 2.6, 2.7, 2.8. It depends on who you ask. That is more or less where we are.
2.8.
Yes, okay, good. So you are in the 2.8 category. So that is who we are. And therefore, then the conversation is, for us, many times, even if we are attracting investment, Namibia does not have a sufficient market. But we have got a lot of assets, whether it is the beauty of the country, whether it's natural resources, whatever it is, we have got a lot. And therefore, if we are to attract investment, we have got access to Africa. We can give to Africa a lot, but of course, there's a lot that we can benefit from Africa. So how do we make sure that we develop Namibia and Namibia resources for the benefit of Africa? And how do we make sure that Namibia also benefits from the resources of Africa? And yes, it starts with the instrument, but then going into the details of the infrastructure. Energy is one of the challenges. They say energy, we need to bring an end to energy poverty in Africa. So right now, the world is talking about energy transition. So, but then African leaders, so like recently, we found oil and gas in Namibia. And then we are being told we are talking about energy transition. People are moving to clean energy. Yes, in Namibia, we're talking about green hydrogen. So how can you as Namibia develop your oil and gas at this time when the world is moving? And we're saying, we Africa, we have nothing to transition from. We are actually at zero. We are in energy poverty. So please first help us to get some energy, and then we can transition like everybody else is transitioning. So our priority as Africa is to end the energy poverty. But yes, we can develop like Namibia in terms of energy. That's why it is one of our top sectors. Yes, it's our top sectors, because to Africa what we can contribute. Namibia is the second largest producer of uranium in the world. Namibia has got unparalleled, in terms of competition, if we want to produce green hydrogen, we are competing probably only, they say Namibia, Chile, Australia and Oman probably for the top spot. Morocco comes very near. And therefore, Namibia, because we have got huge tracts of land which are in the desert, next to the ocean, where the wind blows and where there is 360 days of sunshine. So you can produce green hydrogen at very, very reasonable cost. And therefore, we have got good natural resources. Now we have got oil and gas. And then, of course, given all of that, then definitely we have got abundant energy. However, we are 2.8 million. How much do we do with that energy? So now we want to produce that energy, but we want to export. Currently, most of the export is planned to go to Europe, while we have got energy poverty in Africa. How do we make sure that that energy resources of Namibia are also used in electrifying and also supporting the end of energy poverty in Africa?
Awesome. I was going to pose this question to you, but I changed my mind because you're coming from the public sector. I would rather pose this question to Charity. Charity, is there the political will for the Africa we want?
I think the fact that the conversation started at the EU to really get the agenda for Africa, obviously the political will is there. Probably in terms of the pace at which every country is actually, moving, because every economy has its own challenges. And I think in Africa, so far compared to many years back, when we talk about civil strife, civil unrest, we're getting there. And I think the discussion around the political will there, we've been pushing from the private sector. At local level in Namibia, I think, to give an example, when it comes to Namibia, the conversation is there. We do not even have a problem to look at any political door where we would actually want to engage. But I think for the private sector, it's very important also to have a very strong united voice when you are engaging with the politicians, so that they understand that you're all coming from, the same,
interest.
Yeah. It's the commitment that you want to make and the willingness to work with whoever is actually, government of the day there. What's important is that you're going to address poverty, you're going to address the issues of the unemployment and skills gap. And obviously, I think many economies have also seen that. I was just talking to you informally here. I said the first time that I came to Ghana was in 2000, and I came 10 years later, and then 4 years again later. This is my fourth time. So the Ghana I saw in 2000 and the Ghana that I see now, I've seen it, it's tangible, where there's political will, definitely things can happen.
Yeah.
In Namibia, I think we are very leading country when it comes to democracy. When it comes time for election, your time has come. There is a succession plan that is actually in place there that gives that definitely you don't have to stay in power forever. But the conversation, like I say, the political will is there. even with the projects that we have just discovered now, when it comes to the green hydrogen project, actually it's government that has actually been at the forefront to bring in the private sector. And where we have actually gone wherever, Nangula, my sister Nangula, the office of the president, from the highest office, it has been not just a government song, but where we say as government we were creating the environment to be conducive, but advocating that, but we are saying the private sector come in. And this is the project that we're actually pushing together. So yes, it is there. And like I say, you get a coalition of the willing, that they take the lead, and when they set the example that things are moving, others will actually come and follow. So.
All right, I'm happy to hear this. Let's talk about the event, the main event. What brought you to Accra? This is the first time the World Trade Centers, is it the association? General Assembly is meeting, converging in Accra, but it's the second in Africa, is that right? This is somehow strategic for us as Ghanaians. It gives us the room, the opportunity, the platform to also market and show what we have when it comes to selling Ghana, trading with each other. And Namibia, this is a fine opportunity. Then again, on the back of this event, you get to explore avenues, opportunities with Accra, which is Ghana. What are we trading in when it comes to relations between the two? What are we trading in? I am very much curious. Let's talk about what you are selling to Ghana.
Okay, all right, I'll tell you that. All right. First, I think if we start from the background, we had all these regional blocks that we have found that often it was duplicating. This economy also is part of the regional block of this and this. And obviously it became a bit of a challenge. But then of course with the integration of Africa, we said, okay, Namibia, what is really our niche that we can actually be able to sell to various markets? Now with Ghana, what we started already, we are actually exporting our meat, our beef. So you will have a taste of our beef there when you actually come there. Now today it was very interesting because we went to one of the factories, the cocoa factory, and they indicated to us that the best end product that you can make from the cocoa, the best milk to use is the goat milk. So for us it's an opportunity to make sure that we have a lot of breeders that actually can grow our goat's milk. Not to export our milk raw here, but to import the cocoa there so that we can actually make our own products as well there. So these are things that we're looking at. The cosmetic industry as well. I know Ghana is doing pretty well in the cosmetic industry, but Namibia is able to supply the raw materials. But we also don't want to just be exporting the raw materials, but also what can we get from Ghana, the cheaper. It only takes 6 to 7 days from Tema port to our port to export. So obviously that makes even exports actually much quicker. But we're looking at also expanding. What other areas should we actually be looking at? We had a discussion with the sister chamber in Ghana, where we saw obviously Namibia has not yet had a bilateral to look at the list of product lists that we can be able to exchange. So that is something that we would actually be investigating to see. But I think from this visit it was good for us to actually open up and see what we can. The textile industry, you're doing pretty well. We are actually growing and trying to expand on our garment industry, and the sources usually are coming mostly from Asia, and I believe that we can actually be looking at Ghana and how we can actually be able to export some of this actually to Namibia. But also, I think you've got an advantage that you've got a larger pool of skills in here. The factory that we went to was literally actually constructed and designed by your own engineers. You've got your own laboratory and all the biologists that are doing all that work. So I think these are some of the things that we could be actually, not just products, but also the skills transfer, I think between our countries would actually be looking at.
Your last words, so I can release you, because I know there is an event happening out there. You have to be part of it. Your last words. What does the future hold for Africa?
No, people were saying that Africa is the future, and somebody says Africa is today. So Africa is not the future, and somebody also said, ignore Africa at your own peril. So this is not the time to ignore Africa. If the world is going to grow, if world GDP is going to grow, Africa GDP need to grow. Unfortunately, the world can no longer grow without Africa. Or fortunately, the world can no longer grow without Africa. And therefore, it is our time, and we need to make sure that we're prepared. Because if we are not prepared, Normally I tell people, if you enter into a negotiation, the other party know what they want from you, and you don't know what you want from them, then you will get the short end of the stick. Therefore, as Africa, we need to know, I think I was talking to colleagues here yesterday, your friend is fellow African. Everybody else, it's a business deal, and it's a business transaction. And therefore, when we engage with our colleagues from outside the continent of Africa, we must understand that we are doing a deal. Whether they come and they say they are friends, thank you for your friendship, but let's just enter in a deal where you will get your benefit, I will get my benefit, and to some extent, let's push for a closer to win-win association that we can get. But there is no way that you are coming to do me a favor. You are coming to get something, and there's something in it for you, there's something in it for me, and therefore we are equal partners. And the world for Africa aid has to come to an end because we can trade. And we need to attract investment among ourselves and yes, from outside, so that we can build an Africa that is based on trade and based on having equal partner discussions with other people, not on receiving aid from others, and then we feel like we are a charity case.
Can we walk the talk? Where do we go from here?
Africa needs to be very well prepared in terms of this journey that we're taking. Not only looking at issues of trade, but I believe so much that we need to skill up our own people. And the skills is so much actually within the continent as well. It's just that now we have actually confined and we're exporting this skill to other economies that we actually try to develop instead of really getting the skills within our economies so that we can actually grow our own economies. The future also lies in the hands of the youth and the women. We need to pay particular attention to this sector of our economy. And I believe that with the coming into being of so many new industries that are actually there, how well do we prepare ourselves for this industry that will become very competitive? It's very, very critical for Africa to make sure that that skills gap is really addressed as well. And then also in terms of the pool, most of the time, most of African economies, like I said in the beginning, are really run by our SME sector. How well are we supporting the sector to make sure that they become very competitive, not just within the continent, but as we look also to go to other markets? So definitely the future is within Africa's hands. The answer lies within our hands.
The answer lies within our hands. Well, thank you so much to Charity Mwiya, the Chief Executive Officer of Namibia's Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And of course, Nangula Uaandja, the CEO and Chairperson of Namibia's Investments Promotion and Development. Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, you ignore Africa at your own peril, and of course we say the future is in our hands. It's partnership and not aid. That is what we want at the end of the day. It's been another informative and insightful edition of Diplomatic Affairs as we focus on Namibia and Ghana Business Forum on the back of the World Trade Centers Association General Assembly meeting here in Accra. And so we're bringing you more right after this one. My name is Harriet Nartey. Stick and stay with us.
End of the beautiful, meaningful, and memorable week. During this week-long 53rd General Assembly of the World Trade Center Association, as Namibia, we focused on the key sectors as they were already alluded to by the Master of Ceremony: agriculture, fisheries, mining, tourism, energy, logistics, infrastructure, and real estate. But tonight, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to focus on one single, and that's a specific one, and that is tourism. This sector is very close to us as Namibians. I know you are exhausted, and understandably so, but we want to share one secret with you. Our presence here is to invite you on your next trip to Africa to visit Namibia. Namibia is the best tourism destination on the African map. and indeed is the best country in the world. I am proud to say that. Namibia is a land of contrast beauty. As we alluded to, you listened to us attentively when we sang our national anthem with pride. Our beauty leaves visitors breathless. Its endless horizons allow for your views to manifest in terms of how we grow as a country with its rich in culture. And again, we have abundant wildlife, which is a dream to behold. Ours is a land of rich culture, a nation that is proud of its background. Ours is a nation that takes pride in its people. We have interest in our rich heritage and culture. We have the rivers that close us in, and we have the desert that desolates. Come and discover the wonders of the land of Namibia.
You're watching Diplomatic Affairs, and we are coming to you from the Kempinski Gold Coast City Hotel right here in Accra. It's all about the World Trade Centers Association General Meeting, which took place right here in Accra, bringing the entire world eyeballs to Accra. Of course, we have been speaking to the people who made this event possible. With me right now is Adam Kofi Yewuche, who is the Executive Director for the World Trade Center Accra. I would like to find out the role they played and, of course, how strategic and the prospects regarding this particular event. Adam, you're welcome to Diplomatic Affairs.
Thank you, Harriet. It's a pleasure to be on your show, on your program, and to talk to you. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Yes, yes. So World Trade Center Accra, first of all, won the bid to host the General Assembly, and this is significant because it's the first time the General Assembly was held in sub-Saharan Africa. World Trade Center Accra joined the World Trade Centers Association family in 2008, about 15 years ago. And over the years, we've been working to position Ghana and Africa as a preferred destination for trade and investment in concert with several partners. And so the height of everything we've been doing over the years is the hosting of the General Assembly. We were actually supposed to host the General Assembly in 2021. But due to COVID, it didn't happen. There are 330 World Trade Centers around the world in more than 100 countries. So the process of hosting the GA is tedious. It's competitive. Everybody wants to host it. So I'm not sure a GA will come to Africa again in my lifetime because, next year it's going to Bangalore and it'll go somewhere else and so on and so forth. The 330 World Trade Centers will be wanting to host it, and then maybe we made a great impression, so it will come back to Africa soon. But it's very significant for Africa to be represented around this table of all the other continents. And what we did with this General Assembly was that we weren't selfish with it. We did not want it to be an Accra or a Ghana event, so we wanted to share this platform with the rest of the continent. And so we chose a theme that reflected that vision. So the theme was towards African economic integration and enhanced global presence. You see that tonight, we're hosting a reception for Namibia. So many people came to Accra and then they discovered Namibia. And there were other African countries that participated in this General Assembly.
So you know what, I was going to ask why Namibia is in focus tonight.
Well, because the Namibians, first of all, I have to give it up to them. They recognize this opportunity very quickly. I think that Namibia comes across to me as a very serious country because immediately we extended an invitation to Namibia to participate in the General Assembly. They sent an interministerial committee to Accra to have a meeting with us to discuss how to maximize the benefits of Namibia. And they don't do this only here. I see that Namibia is projecting Africa all over the world. They are one of the countries that stand up to be counted for the continent. And Namibia is interesting because they have a lot of prospects. They're a small country in terms of the population, but in terms of the might, they are very powerful. And so we wanted to, and we've had a partnership with them for a long time. the High Commissioner of Namibia is a very close friend of World Trade Center Accra, and to talk about Fed at the 14th. So we wanted to use this event this evening to specially project our relationship with Namibia and the prospects of Namibia.
It's all about the World Trade Centers Association, the General Assembly meeting, which is happening right here at the Kempinski Hotel. So with me is the chairman of the World Trade Centers Association, John Drew. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having us.
How are you?
I am fine. I've had a wonderful number of days, 4 or 5, 6 days here, and I must say it's been a great experience. And for our meeting and for our association, we could not have come to a warmer, nicer place where the people, quite frankly, were so welcoming and the business opportunities for our members are so good. So I judge the success of our meetings on the number of people who participate. I also judge the success of our meetings, the number of businesses that connect with local business. And local business to us is sub-Saharan African business. So we're looking at businesses from Ghana down to Namibia, and we're talking to those businesses about how businesses we're bringing from the States or from Europe or from China and Asia in Latin America can link up and find business opportunities to share with them.
So for you, this has been very successful.
It's been very, very successful. First of all, I think we had a large number of businesses who want to come. We had a number of businesses in addition who could not come but joined us by Zoom. So they participated remotely. Also here, we found a great deal of business interest from African business that wanted to talk to our businesses. The next step for us is honestly to follow up, because this is an introductory. So the introduction has to be followed up by some detailed work, which we're going to do with the World Trade Center Accra from the World Trade Center Association, to make sure the people who came here have every opportunity to succeed in finding business contacts. And vice versa, the people who are here get to know our members, and hopefully that gives them an opportunity to grow their business here or export or to partner with someone. So the idea here is to create business prosperity, and out of that, hopefully, stronger community. And finally, the other point for us is we'd like to have more World Trade Centers developed in Africa and to represent cities and represent areas. So we're hoping this showcase, which I think this is really what it is a showcase for us, creates more interest and people come forward and say, we want to know more about the World Trade Centers Association. We want to participate more with you. That would be wonderful for us as too, if both of those things happen.
How many participants?
We had 360 participants. We had 97, actually 105 of our World Trade Centers. We have 300 here. And then we had another 50 who joined us by Zoom. So we had great participation. In addition to that, what we'll do is take copy, basically video of what we did here, and we'll share that with the members who could not come for one reason or another. So it will continue on. And then we're going to follow up with some regional meetings in Latin America, in New York in November, and in we're going to Cyprus in I think it's September, and we're going to share what we did here with those regional meetings. So again, we can encourage more interest. So it's the beginning of a journey that we want to proceed with, where we start here, and maybe it's good. It never finishes. It just continues to grow. But the idea is to, in fact, expand upon it. Next year, we're going to India, and when we get to India, we're going to bring this forward with us into India as well, to Bengaluru. And what we're going to do there is, in fact, participate with that World Trade Center, looking at Indian possibilities, but we won't neglect what we've learned here in the companies we identified here. And hopefully some of the companies that we hear come with us now onto India to find opportunities for themselves.
How strategic is it?
Well, it's extreme. I must tell you it's overdue. I said before we went on the air, I apologize for us being so slow, but it's very strategic. The thought process for us is strengthen our members, help them succeed, and secondly, grow the association so we have more members, new ideas, and better business opportunities. This falls into the grow new members, better opportunities, and to grow our association in a strategic way. So that's really the background of coming here. But the obvious reason is as this area sort of cements itself into a more of a business continent, and you work more closely together, this is a great place to start our relationship, because Accra's been a member with us for 15 years. We had planned to come here 2 years ago, but COVID stopped us. so we postponed it. We didn't go anywhere place else, so let me be clear about that. But we came here as soon as we could. But the good news about that is it allowed us to build even greater interest in coming here because of the meetings that we had, networking we did, getting more people excited about coming here. So I think the delay was probably in our interest. But finally, coming here and having the last few days of business contact, meeting the government leaders, meeting the government leaders from Namibia who are here tonight with us, has given us even more opportunity to talk about, and because now we know more about what can be done. And vice versa, it's given, I think, the members here in Africa an opportunity to know more about our members elsewhere. I think that's what it's all about. I think the personal connection is critical. I also must tell you, it's all about trust and confidence. So if we can introduce people to one another and to have them talk about their business and also add a social element to it so they have time to meet each other personally, I think that's going to create much more business interest. So I think it's going to be very, very successful.
So we're still talking to the people who made this possible. It's all about the World Trade Centers Association General Meeting, with Namibia playing a very important role as Accra hosts the event. With me is the High Commissioner of Namibia to Ghana to tell us how strategic this is for Namibia and for Africa. Your Excellency, welcome to Diplomatic Affairs.
Thank you, Harriet. Thanks.
Let's talk about tonight. Let's talk about the entire event.
Yes.
How is this good for Africa?
You know, it's actually very good and critical for Africa because you just look at the theme. The theme of the whole assembly was, Africa's economic integration for enhanced global presence. And that's exactly what we want. Why are we talking about intra-African trade? We actually want to be known for right reasons globally. At the moment, we are suppliers of raw materials. So unless we industrialize, we'll be at the periphery of global trade. And I think for me, this was really an opportunity to engage, investors, business people from across the world, and to simply tell them that Africa is here, we are open for business, but more particularly, Namibia is here. Please come and explore our business opportunities.
It was an opportunity for Namibia to also meet the Ghanaians who are in position to firm up trade between Namibia and Ghana. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think what we go from here is really follow up. There was a big, strong showing from Ghanaian business people. And with all events of this magnitude, the momentum ends when the events end. So I think what we are going to do as Namibia is to engage those Ghanaian business people, especially those who came to our booth, took interest in our products, because what we want is, a win-win situation for us all. Namibia go to Ghana, explore business opportunities, and Ghana does the same.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations.
In previous seasons, you saw this.
You are not allowed to hawk or preach in commercial vehicles.
The perception in Ghana is abortion is illegal, and we don't follow up with the exceptions.
The existence of the customary marriage is no prerequisite
for the ordinance
marriage.
Yes. And now, are you ready for this?
Some people express the fact that they don't go on leave with pride.
Accumulated leave, like they term it, is illegal.
Because in Ghana we don't have enough lawyers, and the accused can apply for bail where he has no lawyer.
knowing full well that you have an STI and you do not reveal that to the person and you have this sexual contact with the person, it is also part of domestic violence.
Join the Law Express panel for relevant, informative, and educative topics.
It is clear that if the court grants bail, it is the registrar of the court that has the power to deal with execution of the bail.
All matrimonial properties that are sold without the consent of the other party are actually null and void.
Hello, welcome to another insightful edition of the only show that projects happenings in the diplomatic community in Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the world. My name is Harriet Nartey. On this episode of Diplomatic Affairs, we are focusing on South Africa-Ghana relations. My guest is no stranger when it comes to our platform, when it comes to diplomacy and international relations. Everything you need to know about Ghana-South Africa relations, she's the best person. She is always available. Her doors are always open to talk to us and inform us of the latest when it comes to relations between these two countries. And so today we find ourselves in her residence and we are going to be talking about Africa Ndaba 2023, which we are so privileged to be participating and bring you all that is happening when it comes to tourism around South Africa. Of course, we cannot talk about global tourism, world tourism, without mentioning South Africa. My guest is the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana, Her Excellency Janet Grace Mason. It's good to have you again on Diplomatic Affairs.
Sawubona, Harriet, and akwaba to the South African residents.
How was South Africa recently? You've been in South Africa, you've been all over Africa. What is happening? I've been monitoring, following you keenly, so I can get all the updates for my audience.
It means I'm working, Harriet. I traveled to South Africa the past 2 weeks for the Presidential Investment Summit, as well as the African Continental Free Trade Area Business Forum in Cape Town.
How did it go?
Successful. The business forum was well attended by all African countries. All 54 countries were represented. And of course, the Presidential Investment Summit was a huge success. The Business Trade Summit, as we've been saying, really is a catalyst for development. And this is where we begin to realize the trade between our respective countries, that we then create one single market for Africans. So part of the business forum was really putting it into perspective, getting B2B relations and meetings done. It was absolute success, Harriet.
I would want us to talk about tonight. Why are we here tonight?
First of all, I would say, as we say in Zulu, Siyabonga. Thank you for always honoring the invitations. Even if I send them a short notice, you always seem to arrive. But yes, this evening I'm hosting a cocktail. It is a pre-Indaba cocktail. It is the Africa Travel Indaba, which is going to be hosted in Durban from the 8th to the 12th. And the reason why I'm having it is I have an overwhelming support and delegation from Ghana, represented by the President of Toga, who is here this evening with us. So we have 60 tour operators from Ghana, the hugest on the continent, that is going to attend the travel Indaba in Durban, and will be led by the Minister of Tourism, who will head the delegation to South Africa. So they travel tomorrow, hence I thought it to have a pre-Indaba cocktail where we get to interact with them as well, and also to wish them well as they go and visit South Africa, and also then tour South Africa as well.
The best practices, I always go for best practices when it comes to African diplomacy. I am excited about this initiative. I understand this has been ongoing for some time now, and for us, we are highly, highly, highly honored to be part of it. And I love the fact that we have a Ghanaian delegation also participating. It means that we can exchange ideas, we can learn from each other.
Harriet, South African Ghana is already collaborating on a broad spectrum, from trade to tourism, and tourism is your low-hanging fruits, and these are where you have people-to-people movement of people, and as you get South Africans to come and visit Ghana, we then also have an opportunity of sharing our culture. Our culture is so diverse but inextricably linked. So you have a lot of exchange between South Africa and Ghana. South Africans are now coming to Ghana to come and attend all these festivals that we have in Ghana as well. So the opportunities are there. And part of what I also invited you to the residents is actually a breaking story for me.
I've been following you.
Absolutely. And I had just posted on my Instagram handle a breaking news that also just goes to shows how deepened our relations are, that we have a group of scientists and doctors from South Africa that came to Ghana for a health program, but you'll have a discussion with the head of the delegation, Dr. Satege was leading the delegation and the scientist, and they came to perform a procedure this morning. Just at 4 a.m. this morning, they had a procedure at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and that is treatment for prostate cancer. And this is the first treatment, targeted treatment, that was done out of South Africa into the continent, and Ghana was chosen. So that just to me means that there's so much that we are collaborating with between Ghana and South Africa, and a tremendous support that we receive from Ghana.
Your Excellency, thank you so much. In fact, I am tempted to ask follow-up questions on the back of this breaking news, but I'm just going to try to, because I'm ready. I see they are ready, the delegation is ready, and they want to talk to us about, this particular partnership, the procedure which took place this morning, and also delve into other issues when it comes to the two countries in this area. Thank you always for having us, and of course, we look forward to hopefully meeting you, if not say hi from South Africa.
Absolutely. Go and enjoy the Zulu culture and enjoy paragliding if your adrenaline is high. Go and do all the fun things in KZN province of South Africa and come back and tell a good story.
Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the evening. So that was the High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana, Her Excellency Grace Janet Mason, speaking to us about Africa Ndaba. It's a travel expo initiative which happens every year, and of course it is one of the best. You find the whole world trooping to South Africa for this event.
I always feel good to be in this building, and the reason is that I feel at home whenever I come around. It is so because of the relationship between Ghana and South Africa. Earlier on, I think the MC mentioned the MOU we signed last year when we went to promote Ghana in South Africa. At the moment, I'm not too sure. Your Excellency High Commissioner, I know that people in government do not have to take visas to go to South Africa. And we pray it extends to the rest of Ghana, not just people in government. It is good we are looking within instead of or before we look at outside Africa. Thank God now Africans are beginning to think like Africans. We are beginning to work together, Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We are now beginning to see the beauty in what we have. Skin color, height, attitudes, culture that brings us together. And so in Daba, it's one of the things we should all take advantage of. I never feel like a foreigner when I go to South Africa, because it is difficult to tell. Maybe yes, sometimes you can tell from some unique features of the South African or the Ghanaian. But the moment they know you are from West Africa, it connects. And one of the things that connects us is music. Music, we all know, especially when we are speaking English, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. And so there are plans to collaborate between or among the three countries to do one great venture which will come to stay, that will always bring us together. I remember when I came, the last time I came here was the launch for Global Citizen Festival. Again, it was Your Excellency High Commissioner who launched it here before most of us heard of Global Citizen coming to Ghana. She supported the government of Ghana big time. We saw a successful show. And so, to cut my long story short, let's all take tourism seriously, especially when it is within Africa. So in Daba, the government of Ghana, I stand in the name of the President of the Republic of Ghana, who will support you. We are available anytime. Let us know what we need to do to make this a success.
I would always say, in Ghana, I've seen a lot of ambassadors. If not at all, I have come across over 200 to 500 ambassadors. And I have never seen any of them in their time in Ghana hosting a farewell cocktail for a group going to their country. And not ordinary group, but tour operators, travel agents, tourism personnel. 60 of them. This is the first in the history of Ghana. Yeah. I think she deserves it. We need to have ambassadors that are not only here for the diplomatic mission, but also build the private sector in their countries. And for this few years, Ambassador has been in Ghana. It looks like everybody in Ghana knows her. She will not sit. She's everywhere. She's blowing the horn of South Africa, trying to build the relationship between Ghana and South Africa. Today, if we have all of us here, it is because of her passion to build the two countries. Not only for business, not only for diplomatic call, but also to build the relationship in the tourism hospitality between the two countries. I want to say a big thank you to our president, Madam Alisa. Little did we know that she has so much energy. I always say that when people are under pressure, can you imagine having 60 people, everybody calling you and asking you about something on the trip? You would definitely go slim, but she, with all the pressure, she's putting on weight. And this tells you how strong the Ghanaian woman is. She has surprised everybody in the tourism industry. We have all been presidents once upon a time in the tour operators. We have some presidents here. Actually, I'm one of the founders of the Tour Operators Union of Ghana. But for taking 60 tour operators outside Ghana, we had to coordinate. Never did we know that we were going to have a big number.
Hello, information.
But I'm school.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of